So folks, do you think that President Biden can get the job done this year and send out stimulus checks? Tell me what you think in the comments down below. We have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. So you want to be sure to continue watching this video to stand to the end. And stand to the end of the video to find out the most important stimulus news. Now, President Biden is urging lawmakers to support his new legislative agenda. President Biden and his administration appear confused as to how to stop inflation. A CNN poll released this week shows that the president's repeated efforts to highlight undeniably strong aspects of the economy post-crisis are not working. President Biden called on Republicans in Congress to help with efforts to combat inflation, following the April jobs report that showed job growth holding strong. In an official statement, Biden said, "There is more work to do. I encourage congressional Republicans to join us in our efforts to lower prices for families across the country by making more in America, strengthen our supply chain, and cutting the energy and prescription costs." President Biden said that fighting inflation is a top priority for him and called it a challenge for families across the country. Biden said the U.S. is in a position of strength. Now, when asked about how the economy is recovering, Biden said the continued strength of our job market and the savings that families have built up shows that our economy faces the challenges of the crisis. According to a Labor Department data that was released today, the U.S. economy added 428,000 jobs, and the jobless rate held even at 3.6%. This was better than the roughly 300,000 added jobs that economists expected. The unemployment rate remained just 0.1 percentage points above its levels in February 2020, and the report came after the Federal Reserve announced a half-point rate hike as part of its efforts to cool rising inflation. More rate hikes are expected, and Biden has been criticized in polls over inflation, despite the hot job market, with voters unhappy about rising prices for gas, groceries, and household items. Inflation is seen as a major headwind for Biden's party in the fall's midterm elections. Biden touted the job creation in April and the decline in unemployment since he took office. Biden says, "Our plans and policies have produced the strongest job creation economy in modern times." Biden said there have only been 3 months in the last 50 years where the unemployment rate is lower than it is now, attributing that as a direct result of the American Rescue Plan and his economic agenda. Now, a trio of Democratic lawmakers proposed a bill this week that would introduce a new national stimulus payment aimed at offsetting the escalated price of gasoline. Once the bill passes, millions of people will be eligible for stimulus checks in any month where the national average gas prices exceed $4 per gallon. Representative Mike Thompson of California, John Larson of Connecticut introduced the bill, and the Gas Rebate Act of 2022 would actually send eligible Americans an energy rebate of $100, as well as another $100 for each dependent. The new stimulus measure is designed to ease the impact on American families who have already been hit hard by the steepest rise in inflation for decades. Gas prices have already been escalating rapidly, and the world crisis contributed to rising prices and rising record highs early this month. According to AAA, the current national gas average as of Thursday is around $4.23. So, millions of people are eligible for stimulus checks, everybody. Now, here's some big updates on this. States around the United States are finding creative ways to give the residents a new stimulus check, and the newest example is the state of Maryland, which is launching a program to help low-income households with water bills.
That another nation should be part of NATO. We just met with the Secretary General of NATO, for whom we have great respect, and again, it's self-determined by a country that they might want to make the appeal. It's up to all of NATO to decide.
Because President Biden and many Democrats, as well as Republicans, want to help out the American people with a fourth stimulus check, and I cannot wait for President Biden to send it out. So Democratic senators are on board for more stimulus bills this year. This will be a big change to millions of people in the low and middle income households across the nation. More crisis relief is going out, everybody, so we should be looking forward to this. So we have some big news. It's that Manchin is starting to turn up the heat on another round of President Biden's Democratic spending bill. Manchin has ramped up his calls this month to step up taxes on the richest people in America. Manchin actually told the Wall Street Journal, "I respect Kirsten Sinema and what her concerns may be, but I think basically our financial situation is getting worse and not better. So we better have a better way of looking at it." So that there are many ways to pay for such ideas that do not include tax rate increases that could hurt small businesses and our economic competitiveness while we continue to emerge from a crisis and economic downturn. Senator Kirsten Sinema's opposition to tax rates have already prompted Democrats to scramble for new ways to finance their plans, and also to expand healthcare, childcare, and education. So far, Manchin has said he backs hiking the corporate tax rate to 25% as part of a future spending bill. So what are your thoughts on this? Will Joe Manchin get it done? and the different changes demands from both senators underscore the difficulty and tricky path ahead for Democrats trying to move forward with President Biden's spending bill. Manchin has already said that he would like to see changes made to the version of the bill that was passed in the House of Representatives. It's also important to remember, everybody, that lawmakers need all Senate Democrats to support another package to push it through the 50-50 chamber. And the good news, everybody, is that most lawmakers are optimistic about getting the massive spending bill passed this month. That includes President Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. During a recent interview with Politico, the Commerce Secretary said that Joe Manchin is gettable on a revised Build Back Better package and in a key part of President Biden's domestic agenda. So far, everybody, Biden has announced that lawmakers will likely have to remove provisions of free community college to get the spending bill passed. And during a news conference, Biden said, "I think we can break the package up and get as much as we can done now." It's definitely important, everybody, that the Biden administration does pass more financial relief sooner than later. Biden said it was clear that there was support for the climate change provisions, like a production of tax credits for a range of industries. And Manchin supported early childhood education. Slimming down the bill might also get Manchin support, but it will likely aim at the progressive lawmakers of the Democratic Party that is also needed for passage. One big thing, everybody, that Manchin has already announced is that he would like to see a work requirement for the expanded monthly child tax credit payments. But other Senate Democrats had rebuked the work requirement in recent months. Senate Democrats have rebuked a work requirement in recent months, arguing that it was also going to raising a
and their climate-related financial risks. In its October 2021 report on climate-related financial risk, the Council outlined how climate change can be a source of shocks to the financial system and increase risks to financial stability. To address these risks, the Council recommended that regulators build their capacity and expand their efforts to address climate-related risks, improve the availability of data, enhance and standardize disclosures, and assess and mitigate risk to financial stability. The Council has also formed its staff-level Climate-Related Financial Risk Committee, which will serve as coordinating body for the Council to share information, facilitate the development of common approaches and standards, and foster communication across FSOC members. In addition, the Council is establishing the Climate-Related Financial Risk Advisory Committee. This advisory body, which will include a broad array of external stakeholders, will help the Council gather information and analysis on climate-related financial risks. With respect to digital assets, new products and technology may present opportunities to promote innovation and increase efficiencies. However,
your plan was to build this economy around you, from the middle up and the bottom down, of the bottom up. I'm so sick and tired of trickle-down economics. It only trickles to a few people. When the middle class does well, the poor have a way up, and the wealthy do just fine. As I said, Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class did, and unions built the middle class, not labor, unions.
With higher food transportation costs increasing the price of food and other goods, state leaders hope to reach an agreement soon and get funds out the door to residents this year. The plan Newsom proposed last month will give at least one $400 refund to each registered vehicle owner in the state, regardless of your income. Refunds would be capped at $800 for anyone with more than one vehicle registered under their name. Now, Newsom's office released proposed legislative language last week on a package of fuel price relief bills. That includes $750 million in grants to public transit agencies to offer free fares for 3 months, an elimination of the sales tax on diesel fuel for a year, and pausing an increase in the excise tax on fuel, which is scheduled to take place in July. California is among several states considering tax relief, as gas prices and inflation drive up the cost of living. Lawmakers in New Mexico approved income tax rebate of $500 for joint households with annual incomes under $150,000. Folks, that's all the news about the fourth stimulus check that I want you to know. I hope you found this video useful and helpful. Yes, it is finally happening. Congress is passing a new stimulus bill very soon. Joe Manchin is now meeting with Republican lawmakers to gain their support on President Biden's spending bill. Now, many people will be receiving an $800 stimulus check very soon, so you want to continue watching this video to never miss out on the very important stimulus check information, and we have a ton of good news to cover. So the majority of people in Colorado are eligible to receive $400 to $800 stimulus checks from the state government due to the Taxpayer Bill of Rights passed in 1992. Most full-time residents have already taken in the necessary steps to get their check mailed to them this summer, filing their 2021 state income tax return. Any full-time resident who hasn't been filed can still claim and ensure they get a check by filing out a submitting form by May 31st. However, a lot of residents, including many veterans and seniors, do not regularly file state income tax returns, and they have questions regarding their eligibility. Folks, the answer is yes. You are still eligible to receive the $400 check for single filers and $800 for joint filers if you are a full-time resident. According to Colorado Governor Jared Polis, there are additional benefits to filing state and federal income tax returns, even if the taxpayer owes little to nothing. He said filing a return ensures that any excess withholding tax is refunded, and they may also be eligible for valuable refundable state and federal credits, like the Earned Income Credit and the Child Tax Credit. This is the same requirement for people in Colorado who claim and receive payments for the 6-tier flat sales tax refund mechanism that would normally refund the money at filing time next year. All eyes are on Joe Manchin as he moves forward with negotiations on President Biden's Build Back Better bill. Reporters have asked Senator Manchin and GOP senators about the claim in a new book that Manchin he will be willing to switch to the Republican Party if Senate Republican John Thune were the Senate GOP leader instead of Mitch McConnell. Manchin told reporters today that Republican colleagues frequently ask him about switching parties and that he never seriously considered leaving the party. The banter between Manchin and his Republican colleagues is reinforcing doubts that he will not sign on any point this year to a partisan reconciliation package to enact major elements of Biden's domestic agenda, with 50 Democrat votes and no GOP votes. Democrats also have taken note that Manchin's opposition to various Democratic initiatives appears to be playing well back home.
There's so much. We've done a lot, but there's so much more to do. So basic thing is, first of all, thank you for your support. Thank you. You're the reason I'm standing here today as president. I've never forgotten not only what you've done for me, what you've done for America. I've said this before, I repeat it again. When I spoke to you about a year ago, you literally built this country. Every investment banker in America would go on strike. Not a whole hell of a lot would happen. But guess what? If you all went on strike nationwide, the country'd shut down. Shut down. You've heard it 1,000 times when I was running for office. 1,000 times. The middle class built this country.